Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
So, all right, you guys. So we're gonna do training tonight on the Vac Kill. So, with what's going on. You're good. So you guys, the Vac Kill. So what we've been, Shane and I have been talking about is, our closing's been down a little bit, and so one of the reasons closing goes down is because we're not doing a good enough job overall creating problems in the home. Okay, and not just like, oh, your wall is ugly, not that kind of problem. Okay, we're talking about problems like with what's going on. So Shannon did a whole training last time on the light show. Okay, creating an indoor air pollution problem. The other problem in a home that we have no matter what is a vacuum. That's the other problem. Okay, so the other problem that we have that we face two problems in the home: the indoor air pollution problem, and then the vac kill or the vacuum is a problem. Now, if you guys saw the demo Shane and I did on Saturday together, they didn't have a vacuum. And he did what I'm going to start calling a ghost vac kill. They didn't even have a vacuum. But y'all, he explained everything like it was right there. So I would go back and watch that one as well, because I have also, I'm sure we all have, made the mistake, and I'm going to call it a mistake, of not doing a vac kill. Or not doing a proper vac kill. If you do not kill the vacuum, you're not selling a rainbow. Or if you do, it might be coming back, or they're not going to use it, or they're not going to book shows. People are going to want to use their rainbow the right way. They're going to want to bring their friends to see a rainbow because we've actually killed. So wounding a vacuum is 100% different than killing a vacuum. The other thing that's very important with the vac kill is once you've killed it and they've kept a rainbow, you need to be taking vacuums. I'm sure you guys are. I don't know. We're training for the whole team, so I know that sometimes, occasionally we might forget whatever. But like, if you're not taking vacuums, if you're not killing the vacuum, if you're just wounding it, that makes a huge difference. So there's 3 parts to the vac kill. Okay. Part number 1: all vacuums are the same. All of them.
He did one last week too, right?
Yeah.
With Tessa's. They didn't have a vacuum.
Right. So the reason why we want to talk about all vacuums being the same is because it does not matter if you go buy, and you're going to hear this from Shannon, a TriStar, Electrolux, a Kirby, whatever. Okay. It doesn't matter if it's a $3,000, $7,000 Kirby. We had somebody the other day say they spent $7,000 on a Kirby. It's like, this is going to be a great demo. Okay. Right. Or if it's a Walmart special or something you got at the thrift store, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. And we have to make that, and that needs to be something. Well, I'm not picking on your vacuum. This is just an example because it's what's here in front of me. But those are things that you need to be saying all the time. They're in the notes. We're just going to talk about some extra, then we're going to go through the notes. I'm going to show you my vacuum, okay? But all vacuums are the same. And the way we talk about that, they all have 4 parts. They all have dry porous filters. Okay? They all smell. Now, you might have some that don't smell.
I say stink.
Right. Exactly. They all stink. They all smell like, they're all filthy. They're nasty. The stuff that comes in them doesn't stay in them. Most of the vacuums that look nasty and dusty and gross, they're nasty, right? But one of the things you've just got to make sure is that you're saying things like this often. And then you have to lead your RC. So, Melissa, you've done several demos at this point. When we've gone to see your friends, have they all been totally different or pretty much the same? You're giving her that, what to say. We're pretty much the same, right? And so you lead them into that question, pretty much the same, right? Yeah, absolutely. So all vacuums are the same. That's the first thing. Because if you just kill this Hoover here, I would say even if you go buy the nicest vacuum you can have tomorrow, guess what? Within a couple of days, it's going to be doing the exact same thing. It doesn't matter. So stop wasting your money. I have a rep, guys, in Pueblo. She was buying vacuums every 6 months. That's how much they were getting torn up, broken, whatever. In Pueblo, we have a ton of sand out in Pueblo Canyon, Rockville area where we're doing these demos. And sand just tears up those machines. It's killing all the vacuums out there. And you can even say, I don't even know if this is the right statistic, but the average lifespan of a vacuum right now is about 2 to 3 years. It's on purpose. So when it breaks, you're going to go buy a new one. The rainbow is meant to last at least 30 years. And that's if you don't take care of it. Right? So all vacuums are the same. So that's the first point we've got to make very, very clear. They have an unhealthy smell. Okay. So, these are notes that I took, guys, that I'm looking at right now from 2020. It was a long, many moons ago. Okay. When I came up to Denver, I think, or Shane came to Texas. But, doesn't matter if you spend $3,000 or $50 to $500 on any of these. Basically, they all have 4 basic parts, and they still have 4 basic parts. Okay. So we're just using yours as an example today. Blah blah blah. It's not a touch screen. I don't know what to do. Okay. So we're gonna talk about that and that's kind of how the notes go. I have my notes right here. But basically, y'all, that's how it goes. And so we just gotta make sure that people understand. And sometimes when they see me, like, oh my gosh, I love my vacuum. Like, so can you see the point I'm trying to make? Like, I even asked that. Can you see the point though? For the most part, I know you might have spent a lot of money, but for the most part, can you understand that? Like, my point here, that most vacuums, they're pretty much all the same, right? And let them agree to that, right? Alright. And then, the second thing that we want to talk about when we're talking about vacuums. Okay, so before you write anything down, we used to show the filters first, and then talk about how nasty it was. But a aha moment came in a demo, and we flipped it. The reason why is when you dumped your vacuum before you had a rainbow, you were just used to seeing all that stuff. It didn't gross you out. Because in your mind, it's just vacuum dust. But when I talk about how nasty it is, and my face gets scrunched up, and I'm like wearing a face mask, even if you want to be that extra, okay? I mean, we were doing that during COVID. We were wearing face masks and stuff like that. So, and gloves, and if you want to be super dramatic, you can do all those things. It's totally fine. If your closing's down, why not throw in some extra props? Okay.
I mean, I don't really like touching
I
people's
use the
body
hand
and
sanitizer.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
Right after, I'm
Yeah.
like,
Oh no, that's not even a game.
No.
I
I
don't
do that
like
so I
it.
don't get sick.
Yeah, for
That's-
sure.
yeah,
That's
that's true.
I actually, that's one part I don't know, because I don't even like touching my, I
Right,
didn't
so
like
for
dumping
you?
my own vacuum.
Right, so I would get gloves and masks. That's Shane for 'em.
Because, like, yeah, I mean, they're gross. I
Yeah.
used to wait for my husband to dump out our
Yeah.
vacuum. I never.
Right. So. She's getting. Alright,
so excited.
Alright, so we have to, the second point, okay? Point number 2 for Vac Kill, you guys, we gotta make the dirt nasty. Nasty. Okay? Not filthy, not gross, nasty. They have to be disgusted by their own dirt, as much as we are, because we know we are. And I hate doing this part, and that's why sometimes I've made the mistake of skipping it. But it's a horrible habit to get into. I'm confessing my rainbow. Okay, so 3 things. We have a couple stories here that we bring with this, but I really have started saying, so what kind of, and then the notes, what kind of things do you think end up in here? Is everything that's in here staying? No. Okay, so that's another thing we talk about, right? It's not all staying. The general trash can, so I've started telling people like pictures, right? So if I took your holiday trash, let it sit and marinate in your house for a couple days, and then take your hairdryer and blew that smell throughout the house, and maybe some of the particulates, would you be happy with me, Bonnie? No. But guess what's happening when you turn on your vacuum? Same concept. Because that's what you do. Pick everything up, put that sucker in a dark closet, let it marinate. Use the word marinate. Write that down. Marinate. The dirt, the germs, bacteria is marinating.
Are we on 3?
No, we're on 2.
No.
Oh, okay. We're the dirt, the germs, the bacteria, the filth from your house, and a little bit of the filth from society that you've brought in on the bottom of your feet, like we were talking about earlier, is marinating in your vacuum. And like,
I create that picture.
right. Okay.
Like so, it goes into the thing, right? Because you don't want to touch it. You don't pick it up with your hands. So then you pick it up with your vacuum. And oh, by the way, your trash can that you've now sucked everything into sits on top of your motor. Then it gets all nice and warm and cozy in there, right? And then you put it to bed. And then it cools down and it creates all that germ and bacteria and nasty. And then what do you have? Oh, you turn it back on and spread it through your house.
Exactly.
And they go, ooh.
Right. But the marinating word, like, really,
That is a good one.
it's a good one because you're like, all that stuff is marinating. Because we all know what marinating is going to do, right? It really gets it all in there, mushes it up, right? And it might not be wet in your vacuum, but some of yours, yup, it's wet. Okay?
Creates
This-
moisture no
yeah.
matter what.
It's gross. Okay? So then we talk about the MIT story, a thimble full of a little bit of that stuff, over 5 million germs, all this super dangerous stuff like germs, bacteria, staph, strep, you know, who knows what else. Whatever's getting passed around at school right now is probably in your floors. Okay? And then the Oprah story. We all know the Oprah story. Okay? So normally, if I have an RC, hey, do you remember the Oprah story? And let them tell it. And if they don't, I fill in. Okay? Yeah, here's the thing, you guys. Basically, the story is, and just real quick, highlight reel, okay? But here's what happened. They were using it in their, you know, you can go as far as you want with the Oprah story, right? But basically, the concept is the salmonella. It wasn't enough to kill them. I always say that. Just a little piece of raw chicken. Think about it. Of course, you've used your vacuum at some point in your kitchen. And then I'm like, you can relate to this, though. So this is how, that's huge. Don't just tell the Oprah story and then move on. Because that doesn't mean anything. Because they're like, oh my God, I would never do that. But you can relate to this. Because, Melissa, you will never see them, or you shouldn't ever see them, right? That's what I always, because we actually had that happen to us. But you should never see them using motorized vacuum in a restaurant while you're eating. Because 2 hours before, 30 minutes after, not allowed while food's out. Because the FDA knows how dangerous and nasty these things are. Okay? And I'm saying these things and pointing to their vacuum. I'm not saying your vacuum, because then I'm attacking them. Some people are honestly like married to their vacuum. Oh my God, I love that vacuum and stuff like this. The little robots, those are really good to knock the filters out of those. Because they're such a small filter. They're so nasty, and people just don't ever think about it, right? And, of course, yet we run them inside our homes. The script is really fantastic, you guys. Okay. The third thing is that the filters are porous, and they pollute. So I think sometimes we miss one of those.
We say leak in the notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pollution doesn't come until later. Once you establish that all those filters are letting all that through, then you start talking about polluting.
Right. Yeah, I'm just going from the...
Oh, from the
Yeah.
title.
Yeah. So, they're full of holes, and they pollute, you guys. So, the points here are really talking about breaking down the filters. So, I always like to do this. I show them like a filter full of holes, right? So the big stuff's obviously going to get trapped, and the smaller stuff's going to pass through. And it's going to go to the next one, which it gets a little bit taller. But then, so I always like to also explain for the people that aren't 100% getting it, if I have really big holes, lots of air is getting through, but if lots of air that's getting through, so is a lot of dirt and nasty. If my holes are really tight, then air can't pass through, which means I can't pick up anything anymore. So you have two problems, right? So sometimes you need to break that down even for some of the people that are a little bit more analytical. They don't understand. Of course the filters have to be porous because air has to get through. But what if air is getting through, what else is getting through? Sometimes we need to connect those pieces. When we're just talking about how nasty it is, when air is passing through, it's not just air. It's all the nasty that we just talked about. Does that make sense? So, I always like, it's not just air. And some of the things I like to talk about even is, can you imagine, this is a great question. So let me know when y'all are ready. This is a good one. Alright. Just watching Karina because her handwriting is so beautiful. Alright, so the good question, here you go. Around this time, maybe before, even sometimes before I show the filters, I'll ask this question. Could you imagine that the air that's going in your vacuum is actually coming out dirtier than when it went in? Could you imagine that the air that is going in your vacuum is dirtier than when it went in? Comes out dirtier than when it went in. And I like to do this from before. It's not in the notes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Say it again.
Yeah. So, could you imagine that the air going into your vacuum comes out dirtier than when it went in. Does that make sense? Okay. And the reason I want to do that before I show them the filters is I want to see if they already get it. Okay. Yeah. So I like to say this one before. If they're getting a lot of questions, or sometimes we gotta talk about it. So Melissa, and all of our other trainings that are gonna be watching us, these notes are fantastic. I've done Rainbow now for 4 years, and I'm so thankful for these notes because it keeps me on track. I still use the notes, but this is just a little bit more advanced Vac Kill training. So you can absolutely add that in. Is it going to hurt your demo? No. But maybe what you do is you take your notes and you add this in. You write this in somewhere. And that's one of the things that I would recommend after you go through some of these things. Pick 1 or 2 things to add to your notes, because getting all these printed again. Okay, it's not super cheap, but one of my reps in Pueblo that's doing a phenomenal job has marked up her notes, which is amazing. I'm like, oh, she's really studying these.
I took those and put them in my laptop, and I updated the ones in my laptop.
Perfect.
Because that's too hard for me
Yeah,
to
yeah,
read.
yeah,
I just use it on my computer.
For sure.
Take my computer with me every time I go.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Whatever works for you, for sure. So, but here's the thing, absolutely, but add this somewhere into it, right? So maybe right here where it says this, maybe you write, obviously what's inside of vacuums, we want to stay inside of vacuums, but the other problem with all vacuums is that the filters are porous and they leak. That would be when I would add it. Could you imagine that the air going inside your vacuums is actually coming out worse or dirtier or whatever you want to say, filthier, whatever word you want, nastier, depends on the house you're in, okay? Because dirtier is for like a house where everything looks super clean. A house that's not super clean, I'm not going to say dirtier. I'm going to say it's something like nastier. Carrot cold.
Carrot?
Yeah, my demo on Saturday.
You're using your phone, so
Yeah.
you want to use mine, maybe?
Yeah, I'll call her back. I'll step out.
So, but if the,
So bad.
we're not getting, right. We can pull that. What? When are you gonna get these? So you said? Bug Shannon.
Oh, I don't know. I don't put them in my
I
lap.
just have papers.
Okay. Yeah, but you should be getting a set.
Yeah.
You should be getting a set. So then guys, then you start breaking down the filters, okay? I would break down every one if you don't know where they are. So the other day I was on a demo. It was a filter queen. I haven't dealt with a filter queen in like a year and a half. So I ended up calling Shannon on my demo. I was like, bro, where's the filter on this? But if they don't know, if you don't know, that's okay.
In your demo?
Yeah.
Actually,
What'd you tell them?
I said, hey, it's been a long time since I've seen a filter queen. Where is the...
I don't even know the different kinds of vacuums.
So that's okay. You'll learn them as you go, and that's okay. But most people know where their filters are.
Or at least the first
Because
one.
they've had to change it.
Right. But
Many
here's,
times
if you
before.
don't even know where they all are, the most important one for you to get to is the exhaust. The exhaust filter. So the way you find that, and I'm going to show you in a sec, you turn it on, and where there's air coming out, there's a filter nearby. Now things like Bissell's and stuff like that, a lot of them you can't get to because it requires a screwdriver, but there's one in the top. Okay. But as you go through, most of these will show you, where they are, whatever. You'll learn them as you go. But the filter queen, the other one, I'm like, dude, when was the last time you saw a filter queen? I don't know where this one is, whatever. Like, look at the last Marco I sent you. I'm going up again. But I like it showed all these people how nasty their stuff was.
But didn't Shannon say that there is a training video somewhere with like multiple different vacuums in it where it
trainings.
shows?
I think it's Todd Winter going through a bunch of different vacuums. So yeah, we'll find that. We can read it
So
down.
that might be a good.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, let me look for
I
that.
struggle with vacuum.
Will you text
I
me,
get
Karina,
this-
right now? That, and I'll look for it.
Do I get the same Marcos as like everyone's seen or not yet?
Not yet, very, very
Not yet.
soon.
Okay.
But this one that I'm doing tonight, we can forward to your trade code.
Okay.
So, but if you can't find the filter, the very The best one you can find is the exhaust one, and you do that by turning on the air. Or turn on the vacuum and tell them for the air. Okay, and we'll kind of show you. But most people know where at least there is. Or the vacuum will tell you when you pull it apart. It'll tell you where the different filters are. So, with the filters, guys, the other part 3, right, we got to talk about the filters being porous and full of holes. Another good picture for this one is, would you ever sweep around your house with a dustpan that had a screen on the bottom? No, why? Because everything's going to fall through. So another visual for people, especially if they have a lot of hardwood floors. That's not one that we've used in a long time. But when I did that demo the other day with Shannon and I, that team show, everything was hardwoods. Everything was hardwoods. So that's what we talked about. I'm like, okay, would you ever dust using a screen at the bottom? Well, no. Okay, cool. Well, same thing here, right? So, so then we talk about the filters, okay? And when I go through the filters, one of the things I've really been trying to do, especially with the exhaust filter, now we're going to talk about how you tap the filters and how you don't, okay? We're not doing a floppy fish. We're like banging the heck out of them, okay? There's a reason. You got to make it gross.
You need to.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need to. So there's a thing there. But honestly, I would rather gross them out at this point because I've talked about how nasty that is. I mean, rainbow goes up on high and I'll scoot back and right? Because if I'm barely tapping, the only time I don't is if there's itty bitties, little kids, or if somebody's obviously not feeling 100%. Or they've expressed that my asthma is horrible and dust makes it worse. Then I won't do it as hard, or won't do it with all of them. I might, like if it's super filled, I'll flick it with my finger and see how much came off. But here's the new one that I've been doing with that last filter, okay? Or one of the really gross ones. Can you imagine if I took this nasty filter, put it to the back of my rainbow and turned it up on high? How pissed off would you, how ticked off would you be if I did that to your house? Correct, right? You just thought about it, right? Obviously, my rainbow's got a lot of power, or this rainbow, or your rainbow, whatever you want to say at that point. Obviously, this rainbow's got a lot of power, so it's not a fair comparison. But isn't that basically what your vacuum's doing? So imagine if I took that nasty filter, put it on the back of my rainbow, and turned it on high. How mad would you be at me? You'd kick me out of the house, right? So I say, you'd kick me out of the house, right? So if I took that last filter, or that nasty filter, right, whichever one you're looking at, put it on the back of the rainbow, and turned it on high, how mad would you be? Melissa, you'd kick me out of the house, right? Yeah, absolutely. But guess what happens when you turn on a vacuum?
Keep your rainbow.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Kick it out and keep your rainbow. But guess what's happening when you turn on your vacuum? And if they've been a little, with me, I'm like, I know your vacuum's not as powerful as rainbow, but it's basically the same thing. Wouldn't you agree? So it's just one of those things where you've got to get them thinking that this is what's really happening. And then the glass of milk story is a really good one, talking about how everything's draining through, right? You would take, and I don't even say glass of milk, I'm like, your favorite beverage, your Sprite, your beer, your wine, your coffee, whatever their favorite beverage is. Most of the time we're doing demo, we got Miller Lite sitting there, Coors, whatever. Would you take your favorite beverage, let it pass through all those lovely filters, or even that last one, I still have that exhaust one, pour it through here, catch the chocolate version of it at the bottom. Would you give it to your kids or your drink it? No. Maybe the neighbor's dog that won't stop barking. Okay, but if it's not safe to drink, does it make even sense for your family to breathe it? No. So, and then going back, you can even go back to that very first filter question. would you rather your rainbow or your air go through something super dirty or water that catches it all? You could even go one more layer with that if you wanted to.
So you've said all of these in one time before? Or you say them regularly and all in one time?
Yeah, so I've been working on beefing up my Vac Kill because, so one of the things that Shannon and I always talk about is, and don't take offense to anybody, but whatever I do, Melissa, my people are going to do less. Copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, if you've ever seen that, right? Or the whole telephone game. I whisper something to you, you whisper something to Melanie, you whisper something to Karina, Karina whispers to Shay. It's going to change versions because of what you heard and what you saw. So I'm really working on, and I'm training most of our people down there. So I'm really beefing up my Vac Kill, really beefing up my light show because they're going to do a little less than what I do. And I've got to make sure that I'm selling the most and starting the most programs. And I know from experience, Vac Kills is what does it. Not a vac wound. So yeah, I
So
really
you do it all the time no matter what? Like, or you just want to get them, make sure you get them on that Vac Kill? Like, that's, because, I mean, or do you tell by, like, how the customers
I do a little bit more using in my demo than necessarily just doing the demo. But at the same time, I probably say 90%.
Because there's also that 5 or 10% that,
are already
for instance,
grossed out.
well, I went to a house and they were like, yeah, our Kirby's on its last leg. It's barely functioning. And honestly, we just kind of figured we'd buy whatever this was if we thought it was going to be worth it.
Right.
That's their mentality walking in the door.
Right.
There's no need to spend 20 minutes beating up a vacuum.
Right.
Yeah.
That's already dead.
Right.
Yeah.
That's called
Right.
beating
Or
the
if
dead
they're, like,
horse.
really,
Yeah.
like, oh my god, like,
Yeah,
that's gross.
yeah, so-
right away, then
right.
you don't want to
No, but you still need to
overkill.
Mhm.
the
not
kill.
overkill. No.
No, but you do need to put the nail in the
Can you
coffin.
ever
Right.
overkill?
I don't think
I don't
you can
know.
really
I'm so
overkill.
confused.
No, you're fine.
No,
Great
no,
questions. I don't
I'm
think you
killing
can.
them.
No. I don't think you can overkill a vacuum. Because
Yeah.
here's what at the end. So here's our big questions at the end, and these are like you need to put a star on your notes or whatever because if you're not asking this transition question, you're not killing a vacuum, and you need to wait. So the last questions, there's 3 of them. Would you agree that all vacuums pollute your home environment?
Mm-hmm.
Right now it says, would you agree that vacuums pollute your environment? But I would change that and add the word all in your notes. Would you agree that all vacuums pollute your home environment? And you wait. This is the hardest part on these transitions. You gotta wait. If you're just reading through, you're missing sales. Because if somebody says, well, I guess. Yeah.
I didn't. I
Yeah,
was still writing my last
no, you're fine.
Is that
So,
what the notes say now?
Huh?
Would you agree that vacuums pollute your home environment?
yeah, that's what they say. No one change it to all.
I have the first set of notes. So.
Yeah.
I have the whole thing in a Word doc if you want it.
Yeah.
Oh no,
this
I have it all. It's
Okay.
just
no,
every time
you
I
have
print
it.
new notes, I give them to somebody else who just started
Uh-huh.
training. So I just keep passing them off. I have
Yeah,
my
so
originals.
This one
I had to make
is-
mine really large print.
Yeah.
I was gonna say instead of from somebody who tried to use that and it didn't work well for me.
Uh-huh.
Put them on an 8x11 and put them.
Well, they're reformatting these anyway. That's and
Taking all the colors
that's
and
the
the
thing.
fonts and all that good stuff.
Yeah, they're reformatting. They've changed the background so it's easier to read, and he got his graphic designer in on it
He bougieed it.
for sure.
I
You
did
don't-
that.
no, you're
I
fine.
just
Yeah.
wrote on that first
Yeah.
question.
So would you agree that all vacuums pollute your home environment? And it's like, well, yeah, I guess. Sometimes I based on what you just saw. Because I just littered their home with their dirt. So, based on what you just saw, would you agree that all vacuums pollute your home environment? They're like, yeah, absolutely. Just and see what they say. If they're like, I don't know, maybe, I guess. Okay, so what about
Let
it?
me do this again.
Right, well, and be like, so what is it that you don't like? That's one of those where we get to the mini back and it says like if they answer section, teach again. This is one of those sections like, okay, so what about it? Like, why don't you think they pollute your air? And you need to see what they say, because if you don't kill that vacuum, or they're just playing hard to get, or they're just not getting it, that rainbow's probably not staying. So you need to ask and wait for the answer, because then you're like, well, I mean, is it really clean? Okay, it smells. We talk about, and so in that case, if they say no, okay, so put a star here. If they say no, you need to bring up the bad food story. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? The bad food story. Curious, Shannon Sanders. Bad food story. Okay, so here's the bad food story. You ready? You can just listen to it, then I'll give you time to write it down. Karina, if the meat in your fridge is like 1 or 2 days past its due date, what do you do with it?
I smell.
Yep, if it smells good, you make it. If it smells bad, you
Throw it out.
throw it out. Okay? Melanie, milk in the fridge. Y'all drink milk at your house?
Yes, do you?
Okay, for sure. If it's a couple days past, what do?
Serve it to 'em?
You smell. Okay?
Alright. I don't do milk, I'm sorry.
Right. Okay, yeah.
You
but-
said give it to us.
Right, so, same thing,
I
right?
would.
You smell it.
Yeah.
If it smells good, you serve it. If it smells bad, you put it in for the next person. Fine. Right, that's my joke, right? No, you dump it out. You throw it away.
Right.
So what is it exactly that's in meat and milk that causes it to rot?
Bacteria.
Boom. What's in your vacuum that's smelling so bad that's causing it to smell rotten? Bacteria. And the reason we can smell it is because it's polluting our air. Boom, now I'm coughing, you solve that problem. In a way that grosses people. You're leading them to the answers, okay?
Okay, so I'm just gonna say, what do you do? I think I'm gonna.
Yeah, well, we're going to send it to you as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but you bad
This is all on a Marco on Positive Vibes, so you can always go back and read references.
Mm-hmm. And we'll send it to you in your training thing.
I'm gonna abbreviate.
No, that's fine. And also, what I gotta say, I'm like, if your vacuum smells bad, what should you do? Like, because they just said throw it away, throw it away. Like, throw it away. I'm like, no, give it to me for $800. Today only. Ding.
There's a reason she has a 60% closing, guys.
Uh-huh.
Those things are dead.
Come on.
Me too, but
It's just, I never go, like, I'm serious, like, Denver, like, this is, like, my lowest threshold to go that way
So-
anymore.
Colorado
Let's talk about it after we're done
Yeah,
with this part.
yeah. 'Cause we'll
Like, for
definitely-
real, I was thinking about this in the parking lot earlier. So we're going to have to coordinate with Shannon, but we need to figure out a way to make this happen.
Uh-huh.
Probably be in February, but we need to find a way to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. What? Me coming up here and then down there to ride.
Colorado cross training.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good
Yeah.
little phrase we can use.
I do have a auntie and monument. Would you
Let's
there?
go. Yeah, girl.
And would I be able to go with you?
Yeah.
You could make that a personal if you're done with the program.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
If you make it a personal, and
Or
you could be a
think
driver
that
where
you're
she can do a ride
13th
along.
Yeah.
Get some money off of it.
Yeah, if she sells and it's a big
Yeah.
chunk.
Or you can just do it a personal afterwards and we can, yep. Cool. Alright, so the next question on the transition, you guys, knowing that your vacuums, that all vacuums pollute, right? If we're gonna make this, bring that full circle, knowing that all vacuums pollute, do you ever want to turn one on or anything else like it ever again? That's in the notes. But going back to making it all, knowing that all vacuums are polluting. No, you're fine. No, for sure. You're good.
Samantha talks a lot.
Sorry. I talk a lot. I got a lot of things to say.
No, I'm wonderful. That's why I get away with it. She knows it too.
So, knowing that all vacuums pollute, do you ever want to turn on one again or anything else like it ever again? No. Most of the time at this point, they're like, well, I guess not. But they always say, but I gotta clean. Are you peeking in my notes? That's always say, like, are you peeking in my notes? You'd be great at this, you know all
we'll
the
get to
answers.
that in just a minute.
Yeah.
I've said that one once.
You must be peeking in my notes. And then,
Well, anytime that happens, I used to always say that too. I'll get to it in just a second. what she just said turns it immediately into a recruiting opportunity.
Oh my gosh, you know all the answers. You'll be great at this.
She'll probably say that 5 or 6 times in a demo, on a standard demo. If it's someone who's paying attention and answering stuff a lot, a dozen times. And what do you know? They
You're
sign up
hired.
for training.
Oh my gosh, I could use one just like you on my team.
And what do you know? She's got, what, 8 direct recruits right now? 7?
5, 4.
Not if you include the ones in training.
Well, training, yeah. Okay, 8. So,
Who?
me.
Oh, you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're
You
good.
are
So,
doing your job.
yeah, you're
So,
so
that's why, because I think that's better than what it always, I don't know,
Yeah.
like
No, you're
just
fine.
throwing in things like that instead of the, like, I don't know, the notes say other things in there.
So the notes are a skeleton, and that's the foundation of the entire structure.
Yeah.
The things that she's telling you right now are to help you advance the advanced training, to help you advance your demo in time.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
don't worry about trying to add all this stuff, much less replace anything that's already there. That's not really the goal.
Yeah.
The goal is to add to it and
Yeah.
build it and beef
Yeah.
it up. To turn your vac instead of a vac wound, we need to turn it to a vac kill.
And the other thing is we just need to stop skipping the vac kill because I know that's what's happening. I can tell you right now.
People skip it altogether.
100%.
I can tell you by your closing if you're skipping the vac kill or if you're not doing a good enough one.
It's
Really?
typically one of the 3 things that
You're
people are
not selling
skipping in their
rainbows, you're not
demo.
killing vacuums because
It's
you
the
haven't
vacuum.
made that a point that they can't. Because here's the last question: if I could also show you that they don't clean, would you have any need for one in your home? They pollute. They're gross, and they don't clean. Why do you even need this in your home? Kipp, stop.
That's crazy that they just skip the whole thing.
It's so. Here's what one of my reps told me literally the other day.
Well,
I
I
got
know
lazy.
Shannon, the only time I've ever seen Shannon is because they didn't have one.
Right, but they'll tell me
But
I've
they
gotten
still
lazy,
want one. Even though
or
they don't have
I've just gotten out of the habit, or I haven't been with you on a demo and I needed a good reminder. What's your question?
The rest of
That last question?
Yeah.
If I could also show you that all vacuums don't clean, would you have any need for one in your home? These are the transition questions. We're just
Yeah,
breaking
those
it
are
down.
in the notes.
Yeah. But it's good to have on your notes.
Never
Well,
skip
this helps
transition.
it stick in my brain.
Yeah.
I understand,
Yeah,
I
it's
understand.
a
Absolutely.
memory.
Anytime it says transition, that's a cornerstone of moving through the demo. Yeah.
What I did, y'all, when we were going through all these notes in our living room for days and days, I took every introduction question and every
knowing that all that.
transition.
So when it says they,
Yep,
you want
put
to
all.
say all.
All vacuums. I took note cards, introduction, transition. Next section, introduction, transition. And then put like my talking points in between. Like this, the glass of milk story, blah, blah, blah. Just so I could get to Shannon's demo. And do it a lot better. But anyway, we can talk about that. That's a whole different how you study your notes. That's a whole different training I'm about to do. Okay, so the vac kill. So 3 major parts to increase your vac kill. Okay, we just talked about this. Highlight what we just went over. 1, all vacuums are the same. We're going to show them that, right? So highlight real on our notes again. So all vacuums are the same. No matter size, color, shape, price. Okay? They are nasty. They're nasty. Okay.
Why,
And number 3, the filters leak, right? They're full of holes and they leak. So, the other parts of the vac kill that we're not super good at. Is pulling in the RC, pulling in the program. So the notes do a lot of good in that, okay? But not near as much as everywhere else in our demo. If you look, this is where it's the least, right? Lead pulling questions and RC questions. So obviously we talked to the RC about, hey, this has been, you've seen this in all the homes, right? Okay. Did your vacuum stink as well? Of course, right? Recruiting, obviously, you can explain that all vacuums are the same. Isn't it nice that there's also no invoicement to join our team? We ask them to explain the Oprah story. And then at this point, if you've had an RC with you several times, or you know that this is demo number 7, 8, 9, 10, hey, do you remember the restaurant thing? Just ask them. If they say yes or no, that's great. Not, hand them your note card. Are y'all handing off your notes? Well, you're not, okay? If you want to grow your team, hand off your notes. Especially in the first third. Not unless you're new, so you don't have to. Yeah. Okay.
I've never seen anybody hand that.
Okay.
Or maybe no
So-
one's ever did that.
Okay, so this is what I do. When I get to the company for a reason, I'm like, what demo is this for you? Cool. My demo the other day that Shannon was recording, I don't think it was recording me yet, I'm not sure. And I was like, hey, here, do me a favor real quick. Ray, mate, can you read this for me? So her very first demo. Gosh, she's a teacher. She can read. But, like, sometimes I'm like, hey, do me a favor, read these for me. I have to go potty. You did great! Okay, so, guys, these make it so simple. I wish I had these way long ago, but that's okay. We have them now. But the only ones I don't let them read, honestly, is at first I don't let them read the program pre-sale, just because we're talking to them a lot, and I need to make sure that is crystal clear. So I won't let, unless it was like somebody like Melissa on demo 9, 10, 11, then I would hand it off to them and let them read that one. Okay? And I'm like, make me the RC. Ask me the green questions, right? Because then you look a little psycho when you're doing both parts. But the Vac Kill, a little bit more, okay? Obviously, how many people do you know would like to breathe fresh air, clean air? Everyone, right? Okay, that's a lead question. Another reason Rainbow's so easy to sell, anyone can have one regardless of affordability. All you have to do is write some shows like your friend's doing, yay, for them. High five to their friend because they're helping you out. Like, have a little bit more fun in your demos, right? Hey, quick question, Melissa. Do you ever want to turn on another vacuum in your home ever again? No. Okay. Is this one of the many reasons you chose to do shows and get your Rainbow paid for it instead of paying for it yourself? Another good RC question, right? How are you coming on your names? Who know that has kids that are sick all the time? Who cares about clean air? Who do you know would be disgusted if they knew was happening when they're vacuuming? Who has pets in the home? Okay, obviously write them down your list. Okay, so those are some good ones, but always anytime you have somebody answering a question like we talked about, they seem really involved, they get it. They get the Vac Kill. Unless we're hiring, you know all the answers. You should come join my team. It's so easy to do what I do. Guys, that's what I've been doing. And that's why we're where we are. We have the amounts of people that we do, okay? So, do you want to, let me make sure all my other notes are here and it makes sense. It's not a touch screen, Samantha. Okay, so one of the biggest things is make sure you're having commitment questions throughout your Vac Kill. So, that's a big with the transition one, like at the end of all vacuums are the same. I'd put somewhere like, would you agree that all vacuums are basically the same? Before moving on to the next section, you know? So, like, you could obviously explain that all vacuums are the same, right? You need to pause there. So, I would say first, would you agree that all vacuums are the same? You could explain that to your friends, right? Awesome, we're hiring. Come check us out at Customer Appreciation Night. Make some good money showing your friends how that concept works. Okay. So get the commitment questions through. Obviously, we're talking about like making the dirt filthy, like when they're talking about the filter and you're putting down the back of the rainbow. You would be mad at me, right? Yeah, you would kick me out of your house, right? Absolutely. I would kick you out of my house if you did that to my house, right? You filth. Well, let's go ahead and kick your vacuum out of that. Just kidding. Okay. And then at the end, the transition ones. Just make sure they're answering those as you go and getting those commitments. If you do not get the commitments you want from the Vac Kill, you need to figure out another way to explain it. Either you or your RC need to find another way to explain why this vacuum's not working. Or you need to go slower. If they don't get it yet, you need to go slower in your mini vac. That's what it tells me too. So if they're not getting the concept that this thing is super nasty and splitting their air and they don't get it, then you have to really do a good job with your mini vac and really explain that concept better, because that's going to be proof that a vacuum can't work. Because you just show them that if they don't understand that it's polluting your air, can they at least admit that their filters are dirty? and your filter's probably clogged. So when it's super gross and super nasty, and I'll show you this in a second when I go through this one. I always say, like, before I even show you what's really in here, does this look healthy or unhealthy to you? When I'm talking about the filters. Does that look healthy or unhealthy? Does that look clogged or not? Do you think if I tap this, anything's going to come out? Boom, 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 boom. Ha! Right? But you got to get them. And then when we go to the mini vac and I show them the black, does that look familiar to you? Does that look familiar to you? But it's not. Oh. But it was still here in your vacuum. Weird, right? So you just got to get them to start piecing it together.
Didn't you just vacuum right here? I swear I just had you vacuum right here.
Oh my gosh, gross. But I think it's good to have them connect the two pieces. Okay, so there's a reason we do a vac kill and then we do a mini vac. It's a purpose. Problem, solution, okay, but we're still breaking down the problem a little bit. Because we're showing them, but I really like the filters, so if you want to write that on your filters report, part 3. One more thing I forgot is when you're showing them the filters, okay, when we're pulling them apart and showing them how nasty they are, does this look healthy or unhealthy to you? Okay, and then does it look clogged or not? So is it clogged or not? Is it healthy or not? And then, do you think anything's going to come out of it? That's always fun. Because the RCs are there like, God, don't let her do it. Now,
Do you think it's clogged?
Yep.
I'm gonna send this with you guys.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you.
you.
Yeah, just right over there in the
Okay.
chair because I'll put it. Actually, there's a bag in the corner on top of the in the other room.
Oh, another one?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's
It's
cool.
a Ross bag.
It's gonna
You
end up
want
in
the
there.
same plates, these were from Walmart.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank
But
you.
there's plenty of napkins.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you you do that.
You're about to
You-
see. You're about to see my
Okay,
vacuum.
yeah, show me that.
She's like, I'm just like,
Because I'm
understand.
confused.
No, you're fine. We're about to go through it. Okay.
I mean,
And- Alright, so I'm just looking at my 2 vac kill things. Okay. Alright, so program tie-ins. One more thing, and then this is something from one more page of notes. Not really a whole page, but just a little bit. So we have some lead pulling questions here at the end of the vac kill. Who do you know that cleans all the time, has 6 kids, whatever, right? Here's some other ones I came up with many moons ago. Cleans all the time, has kids on the floor, hosts all the parties. The entertainer. The OCD friend. Which is why I have a rainbow. Has all new carpet. Or wants new carpet. Has carpeted stairs. Probably the nastiest carpeted place in our house.
Do you ever just look at these and go, she doesn't know how to spell?
No.
Thank God.
No, we don't.
Are you looking at my notes?
what was
I
the
know.
last 2 that you said?
So OCD entertainer, carpeted stairs,
Carpeted
new carpet, or wants new carpet.
What was your very first one?
People that clean all the time, or kids on the floor, host all the parties, entertainer, OCD. Spends a lot of time in their car. I was told to find like 10, so I had to think outside the box. But if you think about it, you spend a lot of time in your car, and you're paying a detail service $400, $500, $600 to do your car, like a deep clean, right? The Rainbow can do that for you. Okay. Works from home now. Has a maid service. Or someone that cleans the house, whatever you want to call it. Right?
The chick that I sold to on Saturday that you did my car out for me, she cleans homes. Awesome. For a living, and she was like, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna use it as a write-off. And I said, good idea.
And my favorite one out of this list I came up. I had to get to 10, and so this is what it is. Who do you know that uses a vacuum? Everybody. Everybody needs to see this. Everybody you know uses a vacuum, and they need to see this. Right? So, some other RC pull-ins. We say it at the beginning of the demo, but would you ever go back to the old way of cleaning? Was your vacuum gross, stinky, full of filth? Out of the demos we went on so far, was your vacuum totally different or kind of the same?
So what were these questions? Like, what did you call them again? I mean, I
These?
know what they are, but what did
Lead questions.
So this is what helps them fill out their 15 people sheet.
Yeah. So like,
Can I one up that for you guys?
Absolutely.
my friends
Mhm.
last week, Tessa, they filled theirs out in like 2 seconds.
Right, so when that
So-
happens, I'm going to tell you what to do. You ready?
Oh, that's what you're just gonna
Mm-hmm. No, you're good. Okay, so when I need to up, if they've got all 15 names, I need to start qualifying their names. So, I go down, I'm like, who on your list is super OCD? Do me a favor and put an A by their name. Because they care about the air in their house. And then when we get to the rainbow part and pulling off all the stuff, I put a C. Okay, for cleaning. So A is, we did this
Can ask
I think I did A, C,
on your
and
list.
F.
Oh, the AC. Oh gosh.
I watched that.
It's like, babe, where'd that training come from? She's like, I basically pulled that out of my butt.
Yeah, I did. We were at the demo, and they had a list. And I'm like, all right, do me a favor, look down your list.
Who
has
owes you a
these?
freaking favor?
Yeah, a freaking favor.
God, I hate you.
Who is your freaking favor? So ACF, so that's what I do. So if it's anything from the light show to the air wash to the Vac Kill, I'm doing an A by their name. Do me a favor, star it, put an A by it. Because these are the people that need this because the air quality in their home is not good. It's like, I don't even have space for all these notes.
Right now.
We can give you more paper, don't worry.
A means air quality, and then what did you say? What other letters did you say?
C is for cleaning,
Cleaning.
and then F is who is your freaking favorite.
Oh.
Because we all have those friends. You owe me. You owe me. Right? So, ACF. And so when then we're going through, I'm like, cool. So we get to this. Is anybody on your list one of these people? And I'll just read, I'll just read a few of those. Who do you know that cleans all the time or entertains everybody? Is the host. Put an A by their name because they need to know about the air quality in their home and what their vacuum's doing to it.
Or they're cleaning all the time.
Right. Okay, and then when we get to the C part and we start cleaning with it and talk about the mini vac and all the different accessories and all the different tools, who on your list is going to super care about saving time? Who needs to save time by not having to do a dust rag on all the freaking blinds? Or who is wasting their money with a maid service that's not using their rainbow to clean? Okay, so all those things. One of a really fun one to ask RC is like, hey, Melanie, aren't you so glad you never have to turn on another vacuum again? That's a great RC question. Aren't you so glad? And you don't even have to pay for it. We're paying for it for you. Aren't you so glad you never have to turn on that vacuum ever again? And you don't have to pay for it. I'm paying it for you. We're paying it for you.
You never.
Alright. I have time to do a Vac Kill. I just heard him say, first question about the opportunity. He's quick. Alright. Let's do this.
I don't think you're gonna have time with everything. You
Yes,
just
told
said.
us. Just kidding. Alright. We good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Right.
As long as you set up like you're normally sitting down next to get it.
Alrighty, guys. Alright. So the rainbow will clean the air, you guys, but the light actually works. Okay. The rainbow will actually clean the air, but guys, wait, don't move. As soon as you move across that floor, Melissa, you start mass amounts of that stuff up. Is that gross? Remember that stuff? Absolutely. Okay. So, what happens when you pull a weed and leave the root, Melanie?
Grows back.
Absolutely grows back. So would you agree that everything in your home collects and hides dust?
Yes.
Absolutely. So there's no point in cleaning the air if we don't get to the source of the problem first. So what do you guys use to get to the source of the problem? Vacuum, right? Okay, so please show us where your vacuum is and we'll show you something that will help you. So we're not going to pick on your vacuum, okay? Listen, I'm not picking on your vacuum. Obviously, the color red is super nice. Okay, so we're just going to use yours as an example because here's what I've learned. I've done over 1,000 demos at this point, and I know that basically all vacuums are the same, okay? So it doesn't matter if you spent $50 to $500 on like a Dyson or a Shark or anything like that, or all the way up to $3,000 on a TriStar Electrolux Kirby. It doesn't matter, okay? Listen, all vacuums have 4 basic parts. Okay, so, Karina, when we came to your house, did your vacuum look completely different or pretty much the same?
Pretty much the same.
Right, because you've basically learned that all vacuums are the same, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's because no matter what, they all have an intake, they all have a motor, they have filtering device and an exhaust. The air comes in, it has to go back out, right? Okay, so we're going to, quick question, Melissa, do you know where the exhaust is on your vacuum?
No idea.
No, it's okay. Most people don't. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to turn this lovely thing on.
Is this
Oh.
plugged in and working? Is this plugged in and working?
Yes. Doesn't say that. This one will not actually work. Hold on. First, make sure it's plugged in. Come on, RC. You already killed that vacuum. Okay, so look at the mirror real quick. You see it? It's like alright. It's right there in the front. Oh. Yeah, see that, right? It like literally. Like Rainbow Girl! Okay, so. Okay, now for real though. Melissa, if you had a choice for the rest of you smelled that, right? If you had a choice for the rest of your life to smell something when you were cleaning, would you choose this or the rainbow? The rainbow, of course, right? Because here's the thing. It doesn't even matter. Because, like, even if you go buy a new vacuum tomorrow, Melissa, is it going to change what vacuums do to your ear? No, we're about to talk about that. So, okay. So, obviously, the rainbow actually smells good. Do you think the vacuum smells really good or kind of maybe bad? Bad, right? Obviously unhealthy. Okay. So, it's not the right way. Yeah, that. So, would you agree, basically, with the 4 parts that we just talked about, the intake and the exhaust and the motor and the filters, basically all vacuums are the same, right?
Right.
Okay. If I, like, let you hang out with your friends for a little bit, you could explain that to your friends, right?
Right.
Okay, so, cool thing is we're hiring, and if you know how to do that, you can have my job. So just come work with me and enjoy my job. Okay, so the reason we turned it on, confession, it's actually new, it's going to have an odor, because all vacuums have odors. So basically, everything that you pull in from your floor, the Filter Society we were talking about earlier in the demo, you remember that comes off your feet, and dogs don't wear diapers and stuff like that, is all hanging out in here, right? So basically, what do you think is inside this vacuum? Basically all the nasty, right? All the Filter Society that we talked about. Would you agree it's more like your general trash can in your house? Insects, live and dead, food particles, crumbs, you know, lovely things, outgassings of furniture, all that stuff that we talked about before. Remember when we were talking about this? But all that's now in here. Okay? So, you would basically agree that that's your general trash can, right? Now, if I took, Melissa, imagine we just had some holidays, right? If I took all your trash from the holiday, let it hang out in your house, let it kind of degrade and all that stuff, and get all warm and then cool because it's Colorado, and let it marinate in your trash bag, and then poke some holes in your trash bag, and then took a hair dryer or a leaf blower and blew it through there, would that be something you would appreciate me doing into your house?
Absolutely not.
No. Okay, right? But guess what you're doing? Kinda. Same concept. When we turn on our vacuum, we just smelt all that, right? MIT actually did a study that a thimbleful of all that stuff hanging on there right now contains about 5 million germs. Things like staph and strep and all kinds of dangerous things. Probably whatever's getting passed around at school right now is hanging out inside of here because it's marinating inside that. Then we, and then, Corinne, do you remember the Oprah story?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that real quick?
Oprah had a lady who worked on her show, was getting sick all the time. Something about salmonella.
Blah, 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 right? So salmonella, yeah, it's all right there, right? So absolutely, yeah, something about salmonella. So what was happening is that basically this family was trying to clean their house. They sucked up a little piece of raw chicken. Oprah sent her team out to investigate to see what's going on, and that's when they found it in the vacuum. They swabbed the vacuum. Super, super gross. It wasn't enough to kill them, but enough to make them sick. Every single time they tried to clean it, they were actually getting sick. And you can relate to this, right? Because when you're going out to eat, you're not seeing them use something like this. They use those little hokey push brooms or dustpans, right? Because why? It's bad. It's against
right? Bacteria.
Yeah. The FDA says no, don't use that inside 2 hours before or 30 minutes after because they're so unhealthy. Yet we use them inside our homes
Before we cook them.
right? Or after.
Or during.
Or during.
You got company coming.
Yeah.
Tag team time.
Yeah,
Cook
for
and
sure.
clean.
Right? So here's the thing. And we know that bacteria is in there because bacteria creates objectionable odors. So, here's the problem. Who do you know, how many people would you know that would like to breathe the clean air? Everybody, right? Okay? This is another reason why Rainbow's so easy to show. Anyone can have one regardless of affordability. All they have to do is write on like some shows like Melanie's doing. So, obviously, what is inside of vacuums, we want to stay inside vacuums. But the other problem with all vacuums is that the filters are porous and they leak. So, what was the question I said about that? I don't even remember at this point. My brain's like, what was the question?
Can you imagine the air going through your vacuum,
Yeah.
runs in and comes out?
Yes. So, could you imagine from that, right, all the stuff that the air that went through is actually going to come out dirtier than it went in? If you don't believe me, I'm about to show you why.
Sorry.
There you go. So,
I just
Okay,
miss you
Sarah.
guys so much.
I miss you too. Okay, and this is what I show. Bye. I love you.
Love you. Bye, ladies.
Bye. Thank you for
Christmas.
dinner, Miss Sarah.
Yes, thank
So
you.
welcome.
Sorry we
You
didn't
are
have
really
the
good.
The
peanut.
Christmas
Yes,
plates.
I was
oh my
like-
God.
Yes, I'll see you on
Monday.
You're gonna have to endure some really great food. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm here for it.
So, and this is what I show. If we want everything to stay inside the vacuum, why does this happen when I touch your vacuum? Ooh, grody.
No wonder you're still sick.
No, it's not good. So,
Don't do
then,
that. Are you telling us not to do that?
no.
I don't do that.
Okay, but here's another thing. Before I
But
even
that
talk
is a
about the
good
filters,
point.
right? It is. It's not all saying. But I'm like, gosh, these people are hilarious, right? So clean filter every 2 months, and so it shows you the different filters. And my favorite is step 2, and I find the one because all filters say this. It says for you to take it out, rinse it, and then put it in the sun for 24 hours. So let me ask you guys a question. In Denver, do you have a sun for 24 hours? I didn't think so. And I asked them in Pueblo, in Canyon, in Florence, in Penrose, in Colorado Springs. I mean, I know it gets sunny sometimes, but we don't have a sun for 24 hours. So what happens? You put it outside and you forget about it.
And
If
then
you have, and it gets gross, because what happens is all that bacteria that's inside of there, it dries out just a little bit, but it's still moist. And then it goes cool, and then it gets dewy, right? And then it gets more nasty, and then you put that sucker back into your vacuum. There's your moisture.
And every time you wash that, it deteriorates the
Yeah.
fabrics inside of it, so it's less effective every time you wash it.
Right.
Whole figure.
So
Yes.
what it's really telling you to do is actually put it in ultraviolet light for 24 hours straight, which
Right.
basically is impossible.
Right, but there is no sun for 24 hours. And I'm like, or if you're like my house, one of your dogs is going to pee on it.
Yeah.
Unless you put it high enough, right? And then you have that going in. So I explain all this to you guys. I'm like, that's super gross. You're going to forget. It's going to disappear. And then I go into vacuums that don't even have some of these filters because that's exactly what happened. They forgot about it. Something happened to it. It blew away. And then they're even using a vacuum without a filter.
This is when I tell them how much those filters cost.
Yeah,
Every time they have to replace one on a vacuum.
Yeah. And it says, like, squeeze out excess. And allow 24 hours for filters to dry completely. But it has a sunshine. I'm like, what? So we go into this one, right? And it twists, and it's a rinsable. But I need to show you this because...
You do need to do this every time.
Yes, because it's super
You have
important.
to break apart vacuums.
Okay, so then, ready? Does that look healthy or unhealthy to you?
Unhealthy.
Okay, does that look clogged or unclogged to you? Clogged. Now, guys, there's 2 ways to tap a filter, or there's actually several ways. Let me show you what not to do.
Hold on. Just for the sake of this portion right here. Go ahead.
Okay. Do not do that. That's not clearing a filter, guys. You gotta see the difference? Okay. My rainbow's dirty, but that's okay, you guys, because I have the tools to clean it if it doesn't sell. But if I'm doing that, it's probably gonna sell.
Hold on.
It's not.
You backed up too far. Let's
Okay.
do that one more time.
Maybe with the rainbow. What?
I already moved the camera.
You can see. I'm not used to this. Okay. Not okay. Not okay. That's not doing anything. That is doing something now. The rainbow's on behind it. And guys, it's a double filter. It's 2 sides. You see the difference? Okay, so obviously, that vacuum's clogged, right? Or that filter's clogged. And then this is one that I would say, what if I put that on the back of the rainbow, turned it up on high, and blew that through your house? Would you kick me out of the house? Absolutely. Guess what your vacuum's doing? Kicking that around your house. Every single time you use it, that's what's coming through. Can you imagine that your air's getting dirtier? Okay? So you're asking these questions and letting them agree. But if you're barely touching those filters, guys, you're not creating a problem. Because they've
That was
already
me in
seen
the
it.
first 2 months.
Me, the one I did on Saturday, I went and like just chunks fell off,
Oh, yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know how this goes back on. Anyway, I'm not worried. It's gonna go.
so
Now,
bad. Sorry.
here's the other one, you guys.
That's
You
the
gotta
one I
find the
beat
other
the
one, right?
smack out of.
So this is your HEPA filter. Same thing here. Okay. Bottom filter, filter handle, bottom filter, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it tells you all the things. But the same thing again. Now these hoovers is not as much. Yeah, still. Okay, Britt, there's still some dirt in there. But don't ever stop this. Keep it down. And the thing you do with this one, obviously if that first filter was fully working, this one wouldn't be clogged at all. Okay, these are all in the notes. And if this is the last filter of your vacuum, who's really the last filter in your home, you are, okay? Because you're the one breathing all that stuff back in.
If you need to cough in this section, always cough.
Absolutely cough in this section. So guys, I have a question for you. If I were to take, so down here it says odors come into the room while we're vacuuming, bacteria multiply in warm, dark places. Why do vacuums stink? Because those bacteria are causing objectionable odors. It's not just yours. If you bought another one tomorrow, it would be doing the same thing. It's always going to pollute your air. Guys, question, if I were to take your favorite beverage, whatever they're drinking right now, tea, water, coffee, wine, beer, pour it through here, catch the chocolate milk version of it at the bottom, the chocolate version at the bottom, would you still drink it? Absolutely not. Would you give it to your kids or the neighbor's dogs, maybe if they don't stop barking? Okay, but for real, you guys, if it's not okay for you to breathe it or drink it, obviously you don't want to keep having that stuff in our air. So after what you just saw, would you agree that this condition is polluting your air? Would you agree that all vacuums, regardless of the kind, the size, the flavor, the color, is polluting your air. If you go buy another one tomorrow, is it going to do the same thing? Yes. If they say, well, no, not till tomorrow, will it do the same thing eventually? Yes. You got to get them to say yes. So keep saying, color, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You can talk to your RC. How many demos have you been on? This happened in your house, correct? With my program, blah, 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 I went and saw 12 of my friends. All the same thing. My manager's been on 4,000 homes. It's the same thing. Okay? So you got to get them to understand that. Now, you know, RC, whoever, do you want to ever turn on another vacuum in your home ever again? Absolutely not. Aren't you so glad you never have to turn on a vacuum again? Absolutely not. Isn't it so nice that when you turn on your rainbow from here on out, it's never going to do this to your air? Yes. Okay. And then who do you know, right? So who do you know that is OCD? Who do you know that has a maid service? Who do you know that's an entertainer? Who do you know? Or just use the ones on the list, right? Now, would you agree that all vacuums pollute? Yes, we just covered that. Knowing that they are polluting your air. All vacuums. Do you ever want to turn one on again, Melissa? Obviously not. Okay? Or anything else like it. So we can't just kill vacuums. We got to kill the Swiffers and all, like anything else ever like it, right? The shop vacs and the Roombas and all the others, right? And if I could show you that they don't clean, would you have a need for one in your home?
No.
No. Thank you. And then I do this. Okay, that was awesome, right? Yay. I literally do this with our sanitizer or hand sanitizer or whatever. And then if it's super bad, like that was,
I'll go wash my hands.
can I go wash my hands? Because that was super gross, and I sure don't want to get sick.
And if, I mean, she wears makeup, I'll actually go wash. If it's that bad, I'll go wash my face.
Yeah.
Especially with a beard. Yeah.
Yeah. So, any questions about the Vac Kill, you guys?
Look for a rag.
Let's put up the she's a chair.
Thanks, Sharon.
Nice.
It's sanitizer. It's clean.
It's fine. Totally. Any questions about the Vac Kill, you guys?
So, I do have one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of plugs for program about who else would do this, that, the other thing. Versus doing a demo versus using a demo. If they have expressed absolutely zero interest in the program whatsoever, will you still utilize that?
No.
Okay. So that means if they have no names on the list.
So, okay, good question. So, in the Vac Kill, some people I have no desire to get my money back, blah, blah. Like, if I love it, I'm going to get one. And that's kind of what I got to figure out at this point. That's when the Vac Kill really needs to be super strong. Because I know that's the only way I'm going to leave a rainbow. But in the Vac Kill, is there anybody you think that could benefit from this? I know you said you don't want to do shows. But, is there anybody you think of that it'd be beneficial for me to go see them? You don't have to come. At that point, I might be just trying to get some referrals.
Yep. Okay.
So, this is one of those parts in the demo, I show air wash, yes, absolutely, you can do this at any point. But this is one of the ones where we've made it concrete now. This is still not concrete enough for some people. Because it's a high-powered light and they know that. They figured out their trick. But that sucker is something they use every day. Or once a week or whatever. So this sometimes doesn't hit people enough. That's what that does.
So when a vacuum may not have a super strong smell, is there anything that you do to help them smell what is there?
Right. So Dysons typically don't smell. Okay. A lot of the new vacuums have been putting Febreze filters in. So then we talk about chemicals. Why are they having to do that?
How do you know?
Well,
so Dysons
those-
is just
Just if they don't smell and you just
No.
tell them that?
So a Dyson has
It'll
the
say
newest
Febreze
ones.
right on it.
The newest
Oh, well.
ones actually have a little puck they install right here.
Mhm.
That is basically a Febreze pack.
Which Febreze don't last forever either.
right.
Which, and
but,
you're actually just adding a chemical to the
Right.
air to mask an
but
odor.
most people know the vacuum smell.
Yeah.
So the other day I went to a demo, vacuum didn't stink. I'm like, okay, how new is it? Oh,
3
it's like-
weeks.
Yeah, they've had it less than a month, less than 2 months, right? Okay. I'm like, so why did you have to replace your vacuum? Oh, it started to smell bad. Oh my god, it wasn't picking up anything anymore. Okay, cool. Awesome. So then I'm just going to use that. And you just had to go buy it. Was this one cheap? If I know if it's a Dyson Shark, the answer's no. Now if it's like Bissell, I'm not going to ask, is it cheap? Because they're going to say yes. Okay.
And
But
that's when I start telling them about how much it costs to replace them over time versus
Right.
that, and how much money they're saving, and that they're buying the same thing for the cost of taxes for
Right.
something that they can hand down to their children.
right, and what I tell people on this is average lifespan of a vacuum is 2 to 3 years. So if I just said price tag, let's just get a sticky note, 500, 500, 500, 500, 500, 500, 10 times, right? Because 2 to 3 years lifespan of the rainbow is 30. You're buying 10 vacuums and you spent 500, so that's $5,000 for one feature that this thing can even do.
$300.
Right. So that's just breaking it down. But for the people that are not interested at all, right, where vacuums don't smell, you can still talk about, you know what I'm talking about though, right? Have you ever had or ever known anybody? Do you know what I'm talking about, the vacuum smell? Yours doesn't, but we can talk about why. What exactly are they using in that vacuum? Do you even know that's causing it not to stink? Because in my experience, 98% of vacuums smell bad because of this condition. So can you imagine what they're having to do and the money it's costing you for it not to stink? The ones that have the Febreze, I have customers that put freaking oil drops, essential oil drops in them.
That's what TriStar does.
Uh-huh.
They put essential oil on little cotton balls inside a deal that's just outside the exhaust. So the exhaust goes through its final HEPA, and then it goes into those little pads, and then it comes out smelling like whatever you put in
Can you
there.
imagine what those little pads look like?
And TriStars, guys, are $3,000 a piece
For a
plus.
vacuum.
For a canister vacuum.
Just a vacuum.
Just the vacuum.
Which honestly, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
it easier to sell.
Yeah, for sure. So here's the thing, like, guys, there's a lot more that we can do in this, but this is a really good basic. But if you have, the biggest part is, this is the time where even if they're not interested in the program, you can probably get at least 1 or 2 referrals. Because you're like, is there anybody you think is, and they could tell you no, and that's okay.
Wait, they're not interested in the program, but they're interested in still
rainbow.
keeping one.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like,
So sometimes I go to a house and they're like, there's no way, come hell or high water, that I'm going to do that program thing. I just don't know the people. I just moved here, whatever. Okay, that's fine. This part of the demo, though, even if they've told me that, because you got to start in those situations. I still bring it up occasionally, but this is the part I bring it up. Is there anybody you can think of that would really benefit from knowing what a vacuum is doing to them and their health, their family's health, their kids' health? Any family that you know in the area, any neighbors that you know that could really benefit from something that could probably improve their life, like the quality of their life. And just like, aren't you so glad your friend showed you? Now you know. Right? But for real, ignorance is bliss. But anyway, but no, for real, like, it's just, at some point, you still got to push a tad bit for those people that won't. Because you might miss out on somebody that could be your next Melissa, your next recruit. Could be the next me. Sold 400 rainbows. You don't want to miss out on that person. Promise. Right?
so you're still gonna ask for referrals and still keep
And
putting that in there, even
yeah.
if they're not wanting to do the
Well, at
program.
that point, like, if they understand the Vac Kill and how the vacuum's always going to do this, and the rainbow can be the solution to that, essentially, you're spinning it as that person you're asking for a referral is doing that other person a favor by referring them to you, because they would now have an opportunity to see this.
And then what I do after the end of my back, I'm like, well, that guy's rude. I'm going to put him in timeout.
Yep.
I'm putting him at the front door. So when they tell me no at the end, they have to go pick up their rainbow back out of timeout.
Yep.
And there's little kids like, that's not where our timeout spot is the other day. She's like, it's over here.
That's
All right, let's put it over there.
Time out.
But, yeah.
That's too funny.